Well, good morning, Michael.
Hey, good morning, Joe. How you doing?
Can't complain. And you know what they say, even if I did, who'd listen, right? First off, let me compliment you on an extraordinary performance. I do not know a word of the Lakota language, and yet I had no trouble following not only your scenes, but finding the emotional truth in all of your scenes. I actually found myself thinking, this guy could have been a silent movie actor. Uh, but when you were told you were going to be speaking entirely in Lakota and there would be no English subtitles, what was your reaction to that?
When they first told me that I was going to be portraying uh, Grandpa Sitting Bull and speaking in Lakota, it was uh, uh, it was an exciting day. I immediately grabbed my dictionaries and started doing my own homework, but I didn't get the script until I got there. I didn't get any of the lines or anything, so it was kind of like shooting from the hip. I worked real closely with Nicole Walker, and she was a tremendous help to me on set and off. We still continue a relationship today. I talk with her maybe once every couple of weeks, and it was definitely an experience that I continue to grow from. I'm a full-time student at Sintegleshka University out of South Dakota, and as part of my curriculum is the Lakota language, and I am still learning myself.
But now you grew up in a Lakota household, did you not?
I did. My father and my mother are both Lakota. My mother is uh, full blood, and my dad is half from Kowichasha, and mom is from Rosebud, South Dakota. But Lakota wasn't my first language by any means. It was definitely something that I had to learn through prayer and song, first of all, from my grandpa.
How heavy a responsibility did you feel, not only at first, but throughout the production? Responsibility to portraying this great man.
Since he navigated such apocalyptic times and did it with such grace and is the only single leader of the Lakota people elected by the people. And usually we as a nation don't have a single itancha or naja speaker for the people. Everyone has their own respective speakers for the people. And with first of all, I guess I'd like to say coming onto the show, knowing that there were Lakota producers, Indigenous narrators, and Hunkpapa Lakota commentators, it put me at ease more than normal. Usually, coming onto a show portraying a historical figure of such significance is always an honor, but it's uh, with knowing that I had the Lakota people in my corner, at having my back just was a tremendous support. Um, of course, Lala Tatanka Yotake, he embodies our Lakota values, with the wisdom, generosity, prayer, bravery, respect, and even forgiveness. So I I went into this project with prayer, walking with a prayer, walking with the knowledge of my forefathers and my family, and being Titwa Lakota, just helped me to embody the mitakuye oyasi, the connectedness that we have with the world around us. So playing and knowing that I'm going to be portraying Sitting Bull was comforting, but also I had this feeling of tremendous responsibility to bring to bring it. You know, I had to do my best. I had to represent my people and grandpa as best as I could. You know, I was nervous and anxious. Every feeling you could imagine. It was all in there. You know, being not a Lakota is not my first language. I had to put myself in those shoes. Right now, I'm about 45 pounds heavier than what I was on the show, and during those times, you know, he was a lot of the time during the show he was starving. You know, or he was not necessarily uh, I guess emaciated, but you know, I was fighting for food, so I put myself in his shoes, and I lost a lot of weight, and you know, realizing that I was playing and portraying at a time of such tragedy and conflict. Those feelings were all right there at the surface, right there, you know, ready to come out. I can't even imagine, you know, the feelings that they went through. You know, I live, you know, in a home, and I have food in my fridge, and I don't have to fight for my literally my life. So doing that, I put myself in those shoes, and you know, I there were times when I wanted to cry. There were times when I wanted to yell and wanted to just be angry at the world because of what happened and what is still happening today.
When you're playing a historical figure such as Sitting Bull, uh, something I think a lot of people don't think about it. It's almost like, and I'm certainly not comparing the two figures, but it's almost like you're playing Jesus in the sense that you're playing one of the most charismatic people who ever walked this earth. Uh, how do you play charismatic?
I've been an actor for uh, quite a few years, and I think being spiritually grounded and knowing where I come from plays a huge role in what I bring to the table when it comes to you know, a screenplay or a film, whether it's a period piece or modern times. I draw from my own life. My particular style is, you know, as if I was doing whatever it is that's being portrayed. So with charisma and Sitting Bull, I let the language come alive. You know, the language is the key in understanding and our Lakota Oaye, our way of life. And we say, you know, our language is alive and it's spiritual communication. So I believe, you know, that Sitting Bull was so spiritually grounded, so incredibly smart. He was an incredible strategist. So those feelings and the reality that he lived was just on a constant reel in my head. So as I'm speaking this language, our sacred language, it just comes to life on its own. And with my acting background, you know, I draw from personal experiences. I draw from uh, I guess mainly that, and wanting to do the best job that I can for not only him, but I'm a representation of my father and my mother as well, and my children.
On the set, did you find your collaborators, your other actors, maybe responding to you very deferentially? I mean, like you know, you were not just an actor playing Sitting Bull, they were like envisioning you as Sitting Bull walking among them.
You know, my fellow actors were, you know, none of them were Lakota. Uh, they put us in regalia, you know, that was as close recreated as they could find, you know, and we had to, you know, we were on a living set, you know, we all kind of fed off of each other. Um, they had a bit tougher time with the language than I did, you know, as we, you know, Malakota. So that I helped them as much as I could to speak the language, to help it to become a living reality for them. You know, there were times when it was very frustrating, just simply because, you know, they're not fluent Lakota speakers, you know, and when we would do a scene, we had some times to rehearse. We had time to go over every scene, you know, if it wasn't before work or after. I was constantly trying to do my best to support the other actors, and we would just feed off of each other. Looking over and seeing somebody dressed as one of my grandfathers long time ago, you know, that just puts you right in the scene, puts you right in the mood, puts you there. So it was a tremendous help because costuming and the makeup and wardrobe department, the direction we had, everything was just spot on.
I'm sure you knew a great deal about Sitting Bull before you got into this project, but once you got into it, once you started prepping and you're looking at the script and you're doing your research, what surprised you about Sitting Bull?
The biggest thing that probably surprised me was how smart and level-headed he was guiding, you know, such apocalyptic times, and not only that, his ability to forgive and ultimately, I don't want to say give in or give up, but, you know, rejoin his people and choose to assimilate in a way. The I guess, you know, he had friends. He had these childhood friends that grew up with him, and how he navigated having to watch his best friends leave and still be who he was and is was probably the biggest surprise to me, because I didn't realize, you know, I read history, of course, and having to I guess act it out and live it was the biggest surprise to me. He was a Wakanwichasha as well, and there's tales and stories of him sitting down in the middle of a battle with his chanupa, and you know, he had a wotawe, or medicine that prevented the bullets from killing him, from the soldiers. Hearing and recreating those stories was probably the biggest surprise to me, and made me just well with pride of knowing that, you know, we have such power that exists within our people, within ourselves, within this world. Our connection is still alive through those people that ultimately gave their lives. You know, we still have a way of life.
What do you think he really thought about Buffalo Bill? I mean, was Buffalo Bill a means to an end? Was he thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna play around with this, flashy pale face because I want to get my people's message across? Or did they, despite the language barrier, you think ever form anything like a friendship?
I thought about that, and I still think about that. I still think, how in the world did he navigate when the life and times of being who he was propagandized as. He wasn't only, I guess, against or facing racism from the I guess the world, but also from his own people. I couldn't imagine the feelings that went through him, and thinking about his friendships or what he really thought of Buffalo Bill. I would have to think he didn't think much of him. You know, Pretty much used his people, his way of life, and turned him into a caricature. There were times when he was celebrated, extremely celebrated, when they were doing the show, and then there were times when he literally had rotten food and things thrown at him. And I can't even imagine wearing his wapaha and all of his stuff, and standing there, and people throwing garbage and booing him, and then the show must go on. He was an incredible man. And I think he had he had to have some type of pity for him. I think he ultimately probably saw through all of the accoutrement, or the at the time, I guess you can say, the pageantry of who Buffalo Bill thought he was. He made his name off of the death of our relatives, and that ultimately was one of the main reasons why we had to give in and develop that relationship with the government, because they wiped out our food source on purpose. And to go with a man that named himself after the death of our relatives, was he had to display and have that empathy, and see through the bullshit. I guess the only other thing that comes to mind is survival, and his necessity to continue our story and let people know the truth as best as he can. I think they communicated primarily by sign language, and I think they had a couple of uh, translators, but of course the language barrier was existed, and he ultimately came back not no richer than when he left monetarily, because he gave away most of his money to the homeless and the poor over there. I did my own research on his journey over there too, and all across America at the time. And his there were people with him, but they chose to do other things with their money, and kind of some of them bought alcohol and drank, and some of them actually left and stayed over there. So I would think he just would have to at least saw the human but behind that, and no one will ever truly know the conversations or the times that they shared together when there was nobody else around. That's what I think about. I just constantly have to I guess I'm always in awe when I think of the life that he lived. He left as the recognized Itancha of the people, and came back and entered into jail, and ultimately was killed by his own relatives. I as a not being recognized, or they obliterated our our political system that we had, and they knew what they were doing, taking the children away, and separating the woman from the man, and him choosing to come back and be a part of that, I guess, just shows his resilience and his strength, to just be literally mocked and made fun of and used to make money and gain notoriety, because Buffalo Bill wouldn't be anybody without him. He wouldn't have been nothing. He just would have been somebody who killed the buffalo.
Unless I missed something, uh, did did Sitting Bull have a wife at any point?
Yeah, Sitting Bull had a few, actually had more than one, but they had some of them got sick and passed away. And at the end of his life, I don't believe he had a wife. He had a couple of children, who one whom was killed as well. Geez, I have to go back into my notes and my history. I still have all of my all of my lines and all of my recorded history and all of these notes and stuff. So you'll have to forgive me that I don't know exactly uh, how many wives he had.
Well, it'd have a great pickup line. Hey, baby, I'm Sitting Bull.
Man, because a long time ago, to be a nacha or a tancha, you're not up here, you're below, actually. So they weighed, their sense of power was way different than what we have today. Their power was in there. Our values, our chanupa tawopre, our laws of the pipe. We hold everybody up here. We hold the woman the highest in prayer, and you're measured by what you give away, not by what you have. So he was a pretty simple man, and he didn't really enjoy or have a love of things like some people do today. And he ultimately passed away with very little. I think they even took his cabin away, and at the World's Fair they exhibited it, the cabin which he was killed in front of. And so really there's nothing there left from other than his legacy. And there's a lot more to him than what the documentary shows, and his effect on other tribes and other people. He delivered 7 chanupas out to other nations, and now the world has that connection as well through the sacred pipe and through prayer, through those our Lakota Oai, our way. He's everywhere.
Well, Michael, thank you very much for your time. Uh, One quick final question. What do you think happens to Runs His Horse's daughter?
Oh man. I think ultimately the show went on, and she, because we have rainwater in the current Yellowstone, she probably, has her own adventures and makes it to California eventually. And whether she's pregnant or not, you would think she would have to be pregnant already, from her and Pete.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she makes it to California, and eventually is I don't want to say killed or murdered or whatever. She's got a story too, and you never know with what Taylor's going to do with the character until it's time.
There you go. Well, thank you once again. And I really, really was impressed by the docu-series, and I hope it gets all the attention it deserves. And I hope you get all the acclaim you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. And Zahn says hello, by the way. I talked with him yesterday, and we share a we talk all the time anyway. And
You still call him Auntie? Do you still call him
well, yes.
Auntie?
No, yesterday I called him sister. but no, ultimately, he's my chiekola. He's my older brother friend.
There
And
you
in Lakota, we have a hunka ceremony or a hunka way of making our relatives, and he's my older brother whom I look up to, and we still joke around just like any other brothers. But he said hello, and he's right now filming Dark Winds.
Yeah.
And he had me do a war cry for him. Actually, he's like he wanted an example of my war cry. He always calls me for war cries and different things like that, because he said, "You're the man at war cries, bro."
Well, next time I need a war cry, I'll give you a call. Okay.
Hey, all right, man. I'll be here, ready and waiting.
Thanks a lot, sir. Bye now.